First of all, just a bit of an introduction and to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. We are thrilled to be here this afternoon. So it is myself, Rachel. I'm part of the business development team at Sparks, and I have my colleague Iain with me. So Iain, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Yeah, of course. Hi everyone. Thanks for coming today. My name's Iain. I'm part of the product team at Sparks, and much of what I've been doing in the 4 years I've been here is looking at our homework and how we personalise it to every student. So I'm looking forward to sharing that with you today.
Brilliant. So we're going to go from in between to each of the screens. So bear with us while we're just changing a few things around. Iain's going to chat through the personalisation. I'm going to show you what that looks like in the solution so you can see it in action. As Abby mentioned, Q&A box just at the bottom for you. We do also have a poll running, so if you wanted to add your responses to our questions into that, we'd be really, really grateful for your responses and involvement. And also a chat box for general questions, and we will be putting a couple of links towards the end in there as well, so just look out for those ones. Brilliant. Okay, lovely. So I'm going to start with a little tiny bit of an introduction to Sparks. If you're not familiar with us or you've never heard of Sparks before, we began in 2010, so we've been going for about 10 years now, and we've been investigating in school-based research to create powerful solutions which can be used in the classroom, but also for homework as well. Homework was the first solution that we appeared with, and our research has formed and supported how we've been able to create a solution which increases student engagement and also accelerates progress as well. All of the content within Sparks is personalised, and that is what Iain is going to chat to you about and how that works and what benefits there are to that as well. But as I say, any general thoughts you have around homework or the importance of personalisation as well in homework, then please join in throughout the session this afternoon. So our focus is around how Sparks creates personalised homework. So I will hand over to Iain to start today's session.
Cool, thanks Rachel. So yeah, as Rachel said, homework was the first solution which Sparks came out with, and I wanted to start, before I tell you about the how, I want to go into the why. Why are we focused so heavily on making it personalised? And a lot of that is down to the research that we've done in schools, but also our own experience. And one of the biggest things we found when developing our homework was the influence that maths anxiety and confidence in maths has with engagement with maths, not just maths homework, but maths in general. And this lack of confidence in maths was really holding a lot of students back. And we wanted to essentially help that issue. And so we tried a lot of things, and we found that actually through personalising the homework to every student, then we can help build that confidence in maths. And once that confidence is built, students can start engaging with it and being successful, which is brilliant. And some of the experiences we've had of students using Sparks, how they've gone from not being engaged to really enjoying maths again, is such a brilliant experience to be a part of. So yeah, we want homework to be achievable for all students. We want them, most importantly, to experience success. So how do we do that? Is we try to balance the two sides. Firstly, it mustn't be too difficult. It mustn't disengage them from maths, but also it mustn't be too easy. You know, you could give them 20 easy questions, but they're not going to be engaged. They need to feel that challenge. And we do this through our personalization. But in doing so, as always in Sparks, we want to make sure that it's working, and we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing, which is why we also carry out our in-house research. And we have found that actually, if you are confident in maths, then this is one of the most strongly associated factors with students' attainment in maths. And we also found that confidence was also a strongly associated factor with progress in maths. So through this research, and you can find more on our website in the Sparks evidence page of it. But in doing this research, this allowed us to ourselves gain confidence that we're doing the right thing, and that through delivering personalized homework, that we can build that confidence and therefore help students increase their attainment and progress in maths. Furthermore, we also want to make sure that students are rewarded on the effort that they're putting in, and not just their prior attainment. So in personalizing the work as well, we can be sure that each student has put in the same amount of effort to complete the same number of questions, the same amount of time to complete their homework. And this means that regardless of the ability and attainment of the students, then they can be rewarded for putting in kind of a good amount of effort. So it's through this research that we decided, that personalized homework was the way to go, and that we want to be building students' confidence. So how do we do that? So in Sparks, as Rachel said, we have our in-house team of content creators, and they have built a huge bank of questions. I think there'll be links to some of these free resources later in the video, but we've got this huge bank of questions, and also kind of 9,000 videos to support each and every question which we're delivering in homework. So we can use these two factors. So a student can be delivered a question, and even if a teacher isn't present, they can use the support videos to help them as well. This is another way which we've decided to kind of help build that confidence that a teacher doesn't always need to be around. The video can be the first port of call if they're struggling. So we've got this bank of 38,000 questions, and that's growing by the day. And that means that we can choose the best questions to deliver to each student. So we've got a number of learning paths. These are differentiated for each topic, and each contain, many questions on that topic, and they go into different levels of detail. And from that, and how students answer that, we can start building a picture of a student's understanding of that topic and understanding in maths. And this is helped by a statistical model that we've got in-house that we use. So we plug in the questions that each student has answered, and we can use this statistical model to help us set homework. And through this, through each homework that students are doing, we can constantly reevaluate how well they understand different topics and areas of maths. And this feeds back in. So in subsequent homeworks, we can help to deliver homework more appropriate to their level. And this is true of students, whether they're in their first week of Sparks or whether they're in their 100th week of Sparks. So we're constantly learning about the student and then tailoring the homework to be able to deliver the right questions for them. And the information we use is based on how they've answered the questions, have they got it wrong, have they got it right, but also how they've used the video support with them. And this combination allows us to create that homework, which is hopefully just at their level, in that zone for best learning. And this can help build that confidence and hopefully, as a result, increase their attainment as well. Rachel.
Thanks, Iain. Let me just steal the screen. That's great. There you are. So I'm going to show you what that looks like for a student, and what little handy tools they have as well. So this is the Sparks homepage. This is from the student perspective, and this is their portal. So when a student has a homework, it appears in their portal, and what they do is when they go through to the current homework, as Iain mentioned, they will have the right number of questions for them. So different students might see a different number of items or a different number of tasks, and it'll all be appropriate for that time length of homework that the teacher has set. When students are going through and they're answering questions, we have a couple of tiny added extras as well, which really help embed that knowledge and to support that learning. So something that we use in all of our content and answering for students is something we call bookwork. Now, this unique code just at the top here helps a student write everything down and structure everything into their workbook. So every single question that a student answers in Sparks has a code. The codes will be all different and they are unique to the question that the student is answering. And what we will get a student to do is, just in a blank exercise book or whatever resource they're using, they will start answering the question process by writing down B10. So if you imagine in that book, we wrote down B10 just in the corner. And then underneath B10, the student then has their question to work through. And what our teachers who use Sparks do is they get their students to write down and jot down all of their workings out. It's so important for them to write things down, to have that process of pen and paper for written exams, but also by writing things down, they're also holding on to that extra bit of learning. Also, for the student to come back to something in the future is great. Having that log to be able to refer back to and work through as well is really, really beneficial. So as a student's going through their question, as Iain mentioned, we do also have a bank of videos. So for every single question within Sparks, there is also a handy little nudge video. And these videos have been designed to be under 2 minutes long. They start with that final screen because sometimes that's enough just to see maybe the structure of a question or the sequence that a student has to follow to get there. And they will talk a student through step by step. At the end, I am going to add a link which you can access to have a little look at some of the videos as well. These videos are also sent home to the parents. So one of the really, really beneficial things around homework is having that parental engagement and that parental support. So we do, as part of the homework as well, email home these videos on that topic for the week. So it really helps support that conversation between parent and child as well. And a lot of our parents say they watch them before they help their child as a little refresher. So we're pleased we're also helping parents. When a student goes through to complete their answer, again, we're just making sure they've done their answers and their workings out, and then they can come to submit their answer on the final page. And what we get students to do when they're answering their question is to also mark this feedback into their book. Now, this student's got this answer wrong. I do apologise, it is a very incorrect answer. What they will then do in their book is just mark incorrect against that answer. And they will go back and they'll be able to retry. So Iain, if you go on to the next bit, that'd be great. And then I'll come back and show you what happens when they retry a question.
Cool, I think I've stolen back. Thanks, Rachel. As you mentioned right at the start of the first bit of the demo, you mentioned that students get different number of questions, and this is intentional on our part, because we deliver the number of questions tailored to a specific length that teachers want. So teachers have the option to set various lengths of homework. So let's, for example, say you're setting 60 minutes of homework. You might get a few students who work more slowly through the material, but are still putting in an equal amount of effort to those who work more quickly through the material. So we do see a variation in the number of questions which students get set in Sparks. And again, like I mentioned previously, this is so that you can understand that if a student has completed a homework assignment, then two students who've done that have put in the same amount of effort, and you can reward them accordingly. So how do we personalize the length of homework? So this is actually very similar to how we personalize the difficulty as well. So that bank of 38,000 questions, the more students that do each question will allow us to understand more about the length of that question and how long it takes to answer. We can then combine that with information we know about the student, whether they're quicker or slower, to then combine the two and set an attainable length of homework, and homework that's centered around the length of time that you set. So like I say, 60 minutes. Now we will see that there's some variation around that. Some students will see maybe 45. Some students will see kind of slightly over an hour. What we find, I mean, this is what you get with statistical models. What you find that this will even out as we go through the weeks and the year, so that on average, students by the end of each term say, will have done the same amount of homework, provided that they're completing their compulsory assignments. Like I say, we expect that this is 60 minutes of concentrated working time, free from distraction. So while this isn't always the case in reality, I know when I was a student, I frequently did my homework in front of the TV, just whatever I was watching. So we do have some additional structures which mean that we can take into account if a student is distracted or spends a time which is too long, and we'll adjust accordingly. So we are still going to be setting 60 minutes of concentrated working time, free from distraction, rather than kind of taking into account all of that. If a student is distracted, we won't take that into account. Rachel.
Lovely, thank you. Move that one there. Perfect. So I'm going to show you what that looks like for a teacher. So I've now clicked across to our teacher portal, and when a student is working through their homework, teachers get insights. So we have two forms of insights that we provide. So we have our first screen, which is our live screen. And when students are working through their questions, this particular page here will start to populate. So as you can see, we can see here that some students have completed their work. Some students here haven't started yet. And you will also see populating along these bars, you'll see red if a student's maybe getting questions incorrect. And what you can also do is click in and see that answer history. So what we do is we provide you with this overview so you can see exactly how your students are getting on. You can see maybe if they've accessed a video during their answering of their questions. You can also see these bookwork codes here. So if you needed to refer to that workbook to see the workings out or the process that the student has gone through to get to that answer that they've submitted, you can refer to those books. Because it's automatically marked, you can see if it's right or wrong. We also provide you as well with a running commentary of the homework. So if the homework is late and the student hasn't completed it yet, what we do is we provide you with the past week's information. So you can see exactly where those students are up to and how they're getting on. And if there is any homework that's still outstanding, you can give them that helpful little nudge if they need it. Back to you, Iain.
Thanks, Rachel. Let me just screen again. Cool. So what goes into that homework? So once you've selected the topics that you wish to deliver in a particular homework, which you can do in the planner section in Sparks, we use this information as well as the information which I've talked about previously, for example, their previous attempts, to deliver them questions on both topics which you've asked to be delivered that week, but also bringing back some consolidation material from previous weeks. And we use lots of learning strategies within Sparks to build a homework which should be adequately consolidating the topics for that student in a personalized way, and actually spend a lot of time at conferences like this understanding exactly how different teachers implement different learning strategies, so that I can then take that information and use it to build a homework for students. And so two of the most common ones, which I'm sure you'll have heard a lot about already today, spaced practice. So in that consolidation part of homework, what we're going to do is we're going to bring back topics that a student has done previously. Now, it could be that they saw it for the first time last week, in which case we might just jog their memory on it, or they might have done it a couple of times since it was first delivered, let's say maybe 3 months ago, and we've waited a greater amount of time. Like I mentioned when I was talking about our constant reevaluation, we'll take how they did the last time that they saw it, we'll reevaluate what are the next best questions to ask this student for this topic, and then we'll bring those back. We'll also be interleaving, so this is obviously something which is commonly done and is really good. The students get to practice their method selection, and it's very similar to how things are presented in exams. And sort of you don't know the topics that are going to come up. So interleaving those questions together from different topics allow students to practice that method selection, really be clued in when they come to their exams. We'll also obviously scaffold well. The content team we have are brilliant. They produce great scaffolded content through their knowledge and working with schools. So we can make sure that students have grasped the basics of a particular topic before bringing in some of the more problem-solving aspects, that AO2, AO3 sort of material. And that's when we can start joining topics together and really testing them, really getting them to think around the different methods they could use for each of these questions. Yeah, Rachel, I think you're back to show them how it's all done in Sparks.
Absolutely. So Sparks looks after the technology behind how the content is set, but your teacher is still very much at the heart of that control of what your students are seeing and how that is inputted into Sparks. So how the homework solution complements your lessons and your teaching is, as Iain mentioned, the content which is delivered in the classroom will automatically be within your homework planner. So just to the right here of the screen, you can see me scrolling through this, this banner just at the side. This is your homework planner. And how it works is week by week, following your scheme of learning and your lesson delivery, the content is created and input into this planner. So right at the start of your journey with Sparks, we would get you to put together your scheme of learning, provide us with that information. There are templates available as well, and we create this planner here for you. And what we do and what we advise is this planner here is then published. So the classes that you have set up within Sparks will then follow this sequence of content and topics. And what we do is per week, we provide you with an overview. So you always know the kind of questions which your students are going to be seeing. Also within the setup of the system, we get you to choose the attainment level that's most appropriate for your class. So we already have that guidance within the system, which then supports the technology behind it to be able to provide that bespoke and personalised content for your students. So we provide you with several examples, so just taking you up through the attainment levels maybe, just to see those different style questions that would be asked. And what you can do as well is you can move things around. So some schools love it because you can publish that scheme of learning and then that is the same across all of your classes. So it then comes to the teacher and you can adapt it how you need to, depending on what your class needs. So you can move topics around, you can add extra things in. So if you think you're on week 9 and you wanted to add something extra in, you can. And you have all of that content at your fingertips. And we will obviously guide on whichever attainment you've selected. But if you wanted to bring something in that maybe is higher or possibly lower, then you still have that control as teacher. And the homework will automatically assign to your student. So where we saw the student portal earlier, that homework will automatically appear on those days that you've set. So for example, here we've got a Wednesday as a handout day and we've got Wednesday as a hand in. So you know every single week that is when this particular homework is going to appear in the diary. As we've mentioned earlier, you can change the length of homework. We advise around an hour, just because that is a really beneficial time length to have full access to all of that content. But we appreciate as well that year 7s would benefit more maybe from 30 minutes. So you do have those different time lengths and options within the system as well that you can choose and utilise. And once that homework is automatically set, it's automatically marked. And then where we showed you earlier with the insights page, you have that live feed running through. And then you also have a final insights page where that week's homework will be summarised for you. And I'll go on to this one in a minute after Iain's finished on his last slide.
Thanks, Rachel. So, as Rachel mentioned, there is a compulsory homework which you can set to your students, and this will be the same length for every student. Now, it might be that you have some particularly motivated students who want to continue doing work. I myself, I was probably one of those who would continue till the cows come home. Or you might also ask students to be completing extra material if they need to catch up or do some additional work. So we also provide 2 additional tasks of homework which your students can be completing. We have one which we call optional. Now this is very much the same structure that you get in the compulsory section of the homework. So you're getting personalised material that's bringing back topics in a spaced manner such that students are spacing those out. You also get target homework. Now, target homework is slightly different. Here we look at specific questions which they might have struggled with last week or the week before, and we might bring those back. Now, if they've struggled with it, now that makes sense that they might continue to struggle with it in this target section. This target section is a really short section, generally only around 5 or 6 questions. And this allows your students to really focus on those questions, using those support videos as well, where they're necessary, to help them kind of grasp the questions which they struggled with before. But we do think that this sometimes might need the help of a parent or a teacher to help a student understand these particular questions. And this is where the videos, which Rachel mentioned before, really come in handy. We send those videos to the parent, so the parent can really help with some of these target questions if they're struggling. So there's no shortage of work that students can be getting on with while they're using Sparks. Not only do we have that compulsory package, which you can set to be whatever length you want to be, there's also these 2 additional ones as well, which students can be getting on with if they fancy it.
Thanks, Ian. So what that one will look like for your students, so where we saw their homework portal earlier, you have your compulsory homework, which automatically appears every week, but this is where optional and target live here, and it's a very similar layout to your compulsory homework. So again, very much still personalised for every single student. When they're clicking into optional homework and target homework, that's when they're really, they're starting to explore that challenge material, and it will be the right level of challenge for them. So it might be introducing different concepts to them, maybe different to a peer, where they need to really focus and where they need to work and spend some more time on. We also have some features within Sparks which provide students with their own independent learning features as well. Homework is really designed to make those students independent learners and to work through those challenges and those problem-solving questions. And what we have designed and what we provide students is extra little incentives. So if they want to go through and maybe work on some additional material as well as optional and target, we also provide them with some handy little links here. And for our year 10s and 11 students, we have a revision feature as well. So what the students can go in and do is they can go in and they can search for that content that they want to work through. Obviously, it would be advised more than likely by the teacher, but they have access to find that content and work through those additional questions and those additional answers. And what we also do within the system is obviously provide rewards. So there are slight incentives behind doing some of these additional pieces of work. And what you can end up with and what you have within your class is we provide you with a leaderboard. So when a student is going through and they're answering their questions, we will award points for their progress. Again, that's completely bespoke for that child. So you end up with a really varied leaderboard, which is lovely. And a lot of our schools that are using Sparks obviously embed that within their merit systems and their reward systems, and find that really nice because it can be different from week to week. And as I mentioned, the revision feature is there for the students to really stretch and push on with that independent learning, especially when they're getting into their revision and also into their exams. And just to come back to the teacher screen, just to see where maybe additional resources are, what we do as a summary to homework. So when students have gone through and they've answered their compulsory, they've accessed their maybe optional and target. We do have some schools that make all 3 compulsory. The students love it. what you have is a breakdown here. So what we do is we provide 3 questions that majority of the class have struggled on that week. Now, what we will do is we will pick that kind of mid-range kind of attainment, because as you can imagine, they are working through different questions. And we provide you with these 3 questions here. And what teachers can do is they can export them. And what's really great is you can link it in with maybe a starter activity for the next lesson, or you can gather these questions towards the end of the year and use them as revision resources. Quite a few of our teachers do that, and get the whole class to work through together on these particular questions. Again, as we mentioned, you can really click in and see here the students' answer history, how they've got on, and you can see even down to the time spent on that question, and maybe even spot those misconceptions early. So you have the question provided for you, you have their workbook to refer to if you need to, and you have their answer history here for that tailored intervention where you see appropriate. Brilliant. So that brings us on to our Q&A. I am just going to whiz back to the Zoom screen. Iain, if you could just share your screen, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, of course.
Lovely. Thank you. I don't think we have any open questions. Cost, we do have one. So we price Sparks individually for every school, so it's very difficult to give you a baseline price on this call, but what I would encourage you to do, I'm going to pop my details onto the screen in a minute, is just pop me a message with the size of your school. That would be great, and we can give you a quote then as well. Okay, so Hegarty. So some of you may know, you may not. Hegarty joined the Sparks family at the start of this academic year in September. So we, both companies working together, which is fantastic. The reason both companies have come together is we have the same drive. As Iain started with in the presentation, maths anxiety is something that is common amongst students, and we want students to feel confident in maths. We want a solution to have impact. We want it to support teachers and also to support students. So that is the main link between Hegarty and Sparks. There are a few differences between both solutions. Obviously, Sparks comes from a technology background, and Hegarty comes from a teaching background. Hegarty has longer videos, we have shorter. There are a few differences within the content as well. Again, I am going to pop a link just in the chat box here, which will show you maybe the differences. So there is going to be a really short little video in one of these. So we will let you see that one, so you can really see and decide, especially if you are a Hegarty user, maybe the differences between both. That's great, thank you. I think we're having a few problems sharing our last screen. So within these links that I've shared here, we do have the Sparks website. Within the Sparks website as well, we have a right, I have a feeling that should hopefully now have shown you the links. If not, Abby, please copy and paste them for me so that I'm sending these properly. We have within the links the Sparks website. That one will take you through to show you a couple of the solutions. Obviously, we've mentioned homework, we also have classroom. You also have a handy little video in there which will just show you the Spark solution. So for anyone just looking to kind of compare or to have a little look through, then please do refer to that one. We also, at the beginning of this year, launched something called the Edtech Evidence Group. Now, the Edtech Evidence Group is a group of like-minded technology companies. We've come together to really promote and push that evidence in behind any technology that schools have available to them and that is used in the classroom. So there's lots of really great reports within that link where you can go and have a little look. There's some in around homework, the effect personalised homework has on attainment, some of our results as well. So there is a couple of different things in there that you can have a little look through and read through with the results. And then finally, we do have a link just at the bottom there, which will take you through to a general screen, which will allow you to download some resources. So within that link, we have some resources for GCSE posters. We have some different lesson outlines. We also have some content examples in there for you. So please do explore that link and have a little look through the resources within that one. They are available for you to download and access as you like. I am just going to share my screen because I don't think our last screen has shared, so apologies for that. And I'm just going to pop up my details just onto the last screen for you. That's brilliant. So hopefully you can see that last screen there. We really hope that you found this session beneficial. I appreciate we have finished a little bit early, so we've actually given you probably about 8 minutes back, so you've got time to go and get a cup of tea now. These here are contact details for us. As I mentioned earlier, you have the Sparks website, which you can refer to. You've also got my details on there, so if you do have any specific pricing questions, then please do get in touch, because I'd love to give you a bespoke quote that you can then have a little look at. I am just going to quickly check and make sure there's no more Q&A. I don't think there is.
There are a few more, Rachel.
Brilliant, Ian. Do you want to run through those?
Should I read them out? So there's one here around somebody saying they work in a Welsh-speaking school and wondering if it could be adapted for Welsh-speaking pupils also.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been doing a lot of work around content and also localization, looking at different curriculums as well. So that is definitely something within the Scheme of Learning Builder. What we do is we create a scheme of learning which is bespoke for the school. So there is absolutely some work in and around that we are working on at the moment.
One around Hegarty have lots of Excel reports that can be generated. Do we have a few that can be generated as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So what we do is we provide a head of department with an overview report, termly report. So within that report, you have an overview of your classes. We are also working on different progress features within the system where you will have a breakdown of topics. So you can see how your class is getting on, you can see how your students are getting on, and you can see their progress throughout that content and those topics. So you have all of that information in product. But the termly reports are really, really popular. They break down everything in and around homework hand-in rates, homework completion rates, and we provide you all of that information so you have that overview over your department.
So the next question here is around any examples of students and their bookwork. Do we have any of those?
We don't to hand, but as I mentioned, with my email address here, if you want to just pop me a quick email, I can by all means send you some examples of those so that you can see how it looks. I've got a couple of examples of our students' work that has been sent in, so yeah, would love to share those.
And the final one I think I can see from the Q&A is, can parents or tutors buy this, or is it just for schools? So
homework is just for schools, as is our classroom solution as well, which we haven't shown you today, but one of the links does show you some snippets of that particular solution as well. Something that is really, really exciting that we launched very recently you may have seen it on social media. The Sparks family, so that's Hegarty and also Sparks, have released something called Numerise. If you haven't seen it, then please do have a little look at our website. You'll be able to find a link on there. Numerise is available for parents to purchase for their child. So what it will do is it will take a child through a maths course, and again, content will be personalised within that one, so that there is something that is available for a parent to buy separately from a school for their child. Absolutely. So yeah, please do have a little look at our website and investigate Numerise and Homework and Classroom. And as we mentioned, if you do have any questions or any further ideas, then please let us know. Abby, I don't know whether the poll results, there is anything on the poll, if everyone's maybe submitted some ideas on there. As I mentioned, any questions you have, anything you think of later, then please do get in touch. I think that is all from me and Iain. So we will probably round up there and let you have a little bit more of a break before your next session. But thank you ever so much for joining us today. It's been great to share a little bit more about Sparks with you all, and we really hope it's been useful. So thank you.
Thanks everyone for coming along.